Moin, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Let's check this out. Code 3 alarm via radio. Serious traffic accident on the Autobahn. 3 persons badly injured, one of them trapped in the car. One of the interesting things about working for the police, I was a 911 operator and dispatcher for a while. And, you know, it takes its toll. I think anybody who works in the emergency services, working in that industry over time, it's going to take its toll. And you really have to make sure that you care for yourself. You have to make sure that you care for your mental health and that you have ways to cope with that stress. You know, you have to ways to relieve that stress and make sure that, you know, you're taking care of yourself when you're on your off time. You know, looking at this tree on the screen, I like nature. You know, I'll go for a walk. If I had a bad day, I'll go to the gym and lift weights for a couple hours, right? And that kind of releases your mind from thinking too much because you're only just focused on like that weight and making sure that you're lifting it properly and that you're getting your work in. I also liked the drive home because I was commuting at the time. And, you know, it wasn't ideal, but it was what it was. Like I was commuting about 30, 45 minutes to work each way. And, you know, that sucks. But sometimes you do what you got to do for a paycheck, right? And, but the way home would be a nice little decompression, you know, a debrief in my own mind. I would kind of debrief the way the shift went. And yeah, that you know, it's not an easy job. I commend everybody in the emergency services, firemen, police officers, you know, medics, you know, the ambulance and paramedics and all of them. Like they do stellar work, and it's certainly not easy. And it's oftentimes thankless. These videos are really cool. They give you kind of an inside look at what it looks like inside the police car, and you can sometimes hear the dispatcher talking to them. Let's get to it. Code 3 alarm. Here we go. Somebody's pulled over on the side of the road. Oh, he's got a little microphone in his shirt. There we go, a little siren action.
Rettungsfeuerwehr unterwegs, Rettung meldet, mit eingesetzter Person, 3 Verletzte, darunter ein Kind. 7120.
Also 20, alles mit.
Ja, okay.
So the officer is probably talking to dispatch, and like he might have some questions. You know, did the caller get this? What did the caller say? What, you know? They want as much information as possible, and sometimes being a call taker, it's not always super easy to get the information that you need. See how the public is doing, getting out of his way here. The officer seems super relaxed and just like this is kind of an everyday thing for him, which, you know, it probably is. That's the thing. The officers deal with a lot, and they have to be at the top of their game no matter what's going on in their lives. You can't really have an off day. Good speed right here. All right, we're moving. We're zooming. We're zooming, I tell ya. This is really cool. I really like the top 2 views, the perspectives of the dashboard and the overhead. I do kind of wonder what they're talking about or who he's talking to. I don't know if it's another officer or just somebody who's like a documentary filmmaker, not a documentary, but like who's been given access to film, because it looks like the officer does have the little mic. Try to switch his tone here every. Frankfurt. And I have done ride-alongs. Let me know in the comments if any of you guys have done a ride-along with a police officer. It's quite an experience. And going code on the highway, it's an adrenaline rush. Absolutely, it is. And I gotta say, it's kind of fun. But you know, you're going into a potentially horrible situation, but you're going to help people. You know what? And sometimes being the call taker can be like one of the toughest things, because it can be fun, but because you might answer 200 calls on a shift or 100 calls on a shift, maybe say 50 to 100 calls on a shift, just yourself, not the call center. And you might be dealing with a domestic dispute, you know, people fighting in the background, people crying when they're calling you. They're calling on their worst time, worst day usually. You might be dealing with a suicidal person. You might be dealing with, you know, a little kid who's lost and picked up the phone and dialed by accident, or a little kid whose parent collapsed, or, you know, and it's a lot. Almost there. Almost looks like just a nice relaxing drive on the Autobahn, doesn't it? He's there. He's pulling up. Probably sees the scene. There's a fire truck there already. They often need fire to help traffic control, or police, vice versa, and also if they need like assistance getting into the vehicle, if the vehicle is all crunched up, right? And also firemen are usually trained in as paramedics, well, to a degree anyways. They can provide medical assistance. Ooh, yeah, this is a bad one. Rolled right off, eh? You're there. Yeah, big unit coming in. Clear the road for emergency vehicles. Pull over to save lives. Yeah, they're getting there. Every second counts. That's why it's running. Every second literally counts. You could it could be the difference between life and death, right? Very cool video. I appreciate that one being sent over. You guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Have you ever had to call the police? Have you ever dealt with the police? Have you ever dealt with emergency services? Do you know what to do in those situations? Do you have your first aid? Do you have medical training? Yeah, but you know, from the video, if you just watched it, it looks like a nice little relaxing drive, beautiful day, you know, but he's going to potentially save or at least contribute to saving people's lives, which is cool. All right, see y'all soon.